Speaking of making some noise, maybe making some waves around the league, how about what the St. Louis Blues did earlier today? We have tendered offer sheets to Edmonton's Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway. So not one, but two from the same team. Stu, you've been a part of an offer sheet in your career. For the casual fan out there, what does that mean? What does tendering an offer sheet from one team to another team and their specific players mean?
You know, I think to maybe break it down into two categories gives you a pretty good sense of what the offer sheet's all about. Starting with who's eligible, and then maybe a little bit on why did St. Louis do it. Who's eligible? Only Group 2 restricted free agents are eligible for an offer sheet. You can't tender an offer sheet where an entry-level player is concerned, a player in the first 3 years of his career, and unrestricted free agents have just that very thing. They can go anywhere without that team right to match. They're out there without restriction. So focusing on the Group 2 guys, when they get into the second year of that Group 2 free agency status, they're eligible for an offer sheet. And what that means is any club out there is free to tender an offer sheet, and that starts a 7-day window within which the team that holds the rights to that player has the ability to match. They can elect to match right away. They can milk it out for the entire 7 days, but it starts the clock running on when that team that holds the rights to that player, in this case, Edmonton, where Broberg and Holloway are concerned, Edmonton's got a decision to make.
And if they choose not to match, there's compensation as far as draft picks, depending on the price point, right, of how many picks come back in return.
Just another quick point on eligibility. There's a unique kind of a spot where certain players like Broberg and Holloway are vulnerable with respect to the offer sheet. These guys don't have salary arbitration rights. They both came out of the entry-level system. They're now in their first year of restricted free agency. They don't have eligibility for arbitration. What that means is the club can't elect to take them to arbitration so that there will be a contract in place coming out the other side of arbitration. They're in that nether region right now and very vulnerable to a contract. Why would St. Louis do this? You get two players, not just one. You put a lot more pressure on Edmonton to match. And two, I think there's a little competitive advantage in this, JMO, in this respect. It might make more sense if Edmonton were a divisional rival to St. Louis, but think of it this way. If you're pulling two pieces out of the depth of the Edmonton roster on the other side of the Western Conference, does that maybe make Edmonton vulnerable to finish fourth behind LA, Vancouver, Vegas? And if they do, what does that mean? It possibly means it opens up 5 spots on the Central Division side of things for a team like St. Louis, who is teetering there on the bubble, in the throes of a rebuild.
For sure.
In the throes of a rebuild. So I wouldn't say that's the primary reason for doing it, but I'll bet you that got discussed at the St. Louis operations meeting before we tendered these sheets.
It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it certainly perks up the hockey world in the summertime, right? Because it can create some bad blood. We had it a couple of years ago, Montreal, Carolina. Remember? Sebastian Aho, and then all of a sudden Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and it's just like you can't wait until those two teams match up in the regular season. Is this going to cause, whether or not Broberg and the other guy are going the other way, like, does this cause bad blood in the regular season if this gets completed, or even if it doesn't?
There is an unwritten, let's call it gentleman's code among GMs. Don't offer sheet my guys, I won't offer sheet your guys. But from time to time, and it's often the Mavericks that are doing it, put Doug Armstrong in that category. This is a situation where he feels he can take advantage. Let's make the point about the cap space too. Edmonton's kind of up against it. Still need to button down these two important Group 2 free agents, but only have $4 million in space. So, if you're signing these guys to an offer sheet that kind of creeps above that $88 million, above the top of the upper limit, it puts a little more pressure on Edmonton.
And be careful what you wish for, because we saw potential RFAs coming up next summer for St. Louis.
Looking further down
the Oilers. That's right. Be looking right down St. Louis as far as that is concerned.